with regards to Unit 1, we will be in a position to take out Unit 2. Again, the projection is that around the 25th of November. But I don't want to preempt what the regulator will raise. And I think what to add is that we wait for what the regulator will say. And if there are questions that still require some clarification, that will be provided. And once we get the thumbs up, as I've indicated in the last briefing, we'll occasion a specific briefing on Kuwait, just to take the country through on the work that we're doing. Kuwait is important as part of that energy mix, just for the record, is the one that is giving us nuclear power, 980 or so, 20 megawatts, 2 units there. So that's a significant part of the energy mix. So it's important that we are able to extend the life of these units. And the work that we've been doing essentially is about the 20-year addition to the work, to the life of Kuwait. Like I said, once the regulator comes back, we'll be able to share with the country the work that we're doing. And then I did report the last time that we were receiving that shipment from China. The first consignment has arrived. We'll unveil it officially on the 16th of November. I did say that we are going to get about 450 units of alternative emergency power solutions. So really this is the various configuration of diesel generators. The first of this is the smallest of these generators. And we are going to deploy those at the various clinics. And the major beneficiaries in government of that work is going to be the Department of Health. Because we are targeting clinics that are in remote rural areas so that we are able to ensure that refrigeration remains intact even in instances of load shedding. There's a preservation of the medication, and we are able to maintain the cold chain or the kind of temperature regime that is associated with many of these medicines. So we'll be inviting you, and the only reason that it's taking that long is because we want to ensure that when we release these generating units, we are able to identify the clinic, and then it must sit on the asset register of the receiving department. So really it's a bureaucratic exercise. But I want to assure the country that indeed they've arrived, and on the 16th will be inviting everyone to come and observe. Now, just getting to the issues around the performance of the grid, I have to say the following, that we have been able to maintain some degree of, if you like, credibility, ensuring that we are able to sustain available capacity for a period of about 8 days. And that's significantly psychological. Over that period, we were able to ensure that we are not experiencing load shedding in the plant. And in fact, at some period, we even reached the peaks of available capacity on the day, upwards of 30,000 megawatts. So that's significant, that's psychological. It's a psychological barrier, I was saying to the team. So it's important that we are able to breach that and maintain those levels. But what has been worrying, and something that I've registered with the team, and I say a lot about this, is the fact that there's huge swings in the available capacity, and that as a function of the unplanned capacity loss factor. So if you look at the period of October the 2nd to the 6th, that unplanned capacity loss factor, the partial load losses, and the outage scripts were sitting at 14,180 megawatts. And this is even an improvement on ESCOM's own outlook of the summer projection, because that was placing this at about 14,500 megawatts. And the week after, the 9th to the 13th of October, we continue to see the improvement. And we went to 3,373 megawatts. Just for the record, those who are watching at home, what I mean by this 13,373 megawatts, it means that these are the units, the collective aggregate amount of megawatts that have been removed from the grid as a result of the failure of the units. They are unreliable, and also they are not performing at their design capacity, but also it's a function also of the fact that we are not retaining the units as promised. And the lower the number, the better the performance of the grid, and the lower the stages of load shedding. And we have indicated that we want to keep this at below 14,500 megawatts. When we went into the winter period, the worst case scenario was about 18,000 megawatts plus. When we went to the week after that of the 18th, that ended on the Friday, the 20th, because we worked Monday to Friday for purposes of this briefing. Again, we saw an additional improvement. We brought this from 13,373 megawatts to just about 3,096 now. Again, an improvement of over 200 megawatts. So it means that as we undermine the failure of these units, their inefficiencies, it means that there's more megawatts to the grid, and therefore there are lower stages of load shedding. And then when we went to the week of the 27th, this number then came back to about 14,998 megawatts, just shy of 15,000 megawatts, worse than what has been in fact what was going to be our benchmark for the winter output. Now the week that we have come from, which is the one that I'm talking until Friday, is that we have experienced about 70,000 megawatts of this failure. And that's significant. It's significant on many accounts. The first one is that it undermines that positive trajectory, because now hitherto we have been on a positive trajectory. We are able to illustrate consistently that there's improvement on the grid, and as a result of this improvement, as we return the units, you can see it, of course, for an average person, you see it in the intensity of load shedding, and that's why for a period of time we were not able to have load shedding. But as a result of these failures, and it's something that is receiving attention, we've gone back to about 17,000 megawatts, and this is totally unacceptable, I must say. We did say that we have an ambition of 14,500 megawatts or less. That's our ambition, and we are about 2,500 megawatts higher than what we had projected for ourselves. So one is the quick switch. So you move from an improvement, an average of a week of about 18,000 megawatts, and then suddenly you go to 17,000 megawatts. You add 44,000 megawatts of capacity that is unavailable to the grid, and hence undermining our ability to address the issues of load shedding. I'm making this point because tied to what the Minister of Finance has said, for as long as we are not able to illustrate that there's consistent improvement, we are able to build confidence in the market, we are able to assure the South African population that this positive trajectory can be sustained, I think we can forget about our ability to grow the economy at levels that are above 1%. And of course, 1% we are barely growing. So it's important that we do this, and the team has accepted that this is something that should receive attention. And you can see that what are these some of the primary causes of where we are. The first one is really about also the issue around the outage slips. So the outage slips, we say the unit has gone out, we are going to repay it, and then we'll retain it by this date. I did say that at the best of this performance, we're sitting at 766 megawatts. So the weekend of about the week of the 9th to the 13th of October, we're at 766 megawatts. So it means that we're beginning to deliver on our promise to make these units available on time, and of course only 766 megawatts as a result of our failure to achieve that. But this then we grew it almost fivefold. So we went now to 3,657 megawatts. So our own inability to return the unit at the period that was planned, and that's the main culprit. And it's something that I hope it's an aberration, and the assurance I've gotten from the team that it's an aberration. And let's examine what are some of those issues that have resulted in this in the case. The first one is the fact that now we've gone back to what has been the albatross. Remember when I started in this position, I did indicate that one of the major reasons why we are seeing units failing on their own is because of what we call boiler trip leaks. And it can be as a result of the multiplicity of factors, cold quality, dam rate, and all of that. And then we've seen that 11 units went out in this period, where we went to the UCLF of 17,000 megawatts. And these are sizable units. Largely boiler trip leaks. And I did indicate that one of the things that we have put in place is to ensure that we get to grips with an understanding, appreciative understanding of what it requires for us to be able to attend to the issues around boiler trip leaks. And of course, we have not seen this in this scale at the same time over a period of time, and that's why we've been able to sustain the kind of performance that we have sustained. Again, I mean, you can see at Manta, you see the one that we just returned just the other day, the issues of crane, stationary crane, Letabo, Duba, Majuba, Camden, Tutuka. So these are the units that had gone out as a result of boiler trip leaks. And of course, they are retaining, I'm advised that 6 of the 11 units are still off. We are expecting them to come back by Wednesday, Thursday of this week. Almost all of them, the 6 of the 11 that had gone out, the 5 have already come back, and that's why we are seeing a little bit of ease. Of course, it just coincided with the weekend and the issues of lower demand. So it's an area that requires attention. So it's important that as we articulate this energy action plan, remember the first of the outcomes is to ensure that we fix ESCOM, and primarily is to ensure that we address the issues of the reliability and performance of this unit. I really want to give the assurance that we are on it, and of course it also coincides with my second visit now to the power station. The first visit was to the diagnostic one, where they agreed with the team what the interventions are, and for the next 2 weeks I'll be going back to the power station by power station, generation unit by generation unit, just getting an appreciation on how far we are in relation to the targets that we set for ourselves at the level of the station, and of course that is articulated also at the granular detail at the level of the units. And then the issues of the outlet slips, like I've indicated, our own inability to meet our progress. To say, when we say that we return this unit on this day, essentially comes back on that day. It's a function of meticulous planning. We have done exceptionally well over the period of 3 months, and I think the ball was dropped here. And it's important that we impress upon the team, and that's the internal conversation we are having, for us to be able to build confidence, for us to be able to build credibility in our ability to resolve this crisis. It's important that we are consistent with relation to our performance. You can't have these oscillations, that you have a UCLF of 18,000 megawatts, we reach periods of about 12,000 megawatts, and suddenly you go to 17,000 megawatts. I don't think that we are going to give confidence to the South African public, and most importantly to the South African public, but also to commerce and business and potential investors who want to put their money, invest their money into the South African economy, because that's not reliable from a load shedding point of view. We are not helping the Minister of Finance. We are not helping the South African economy, and that's why it's important that we apply some degree of patience. As I conclude on this, is to indicate that we are still on course on Kusile Unit 2, as indicated before. We are expecting to get it by the 3rd week of November this month, and then firing Kusile Unit 5 again by about the 3rd week of December of this year. And we should see that significant improvement. But what is key is for us to be able to address these areas. And also just to indicate that we are now similar to the IRP, very advanced in relation to the issues around the options in relation to the financing of the transmission. It has gone through multiple iterations, the first version, engagement with some of the industry players, and then I'll be escalating, taking it to cabinet, and I hope that by late November, early December, we should be able to come out and indicate how we are going to exercise those options going forward, so that we are able to onboard, if you like, issues around renewable energy, generation capacity, additional capacity, and we are able to free the stranded electrons who are able to benefit the South African economy. And then the other one is in relation to the rollout of rooftop solar. I did indicate previously that we are advocating for two things really that should be attended to. And that engagement is happening with the Minister of Finance. The first one is at an incentive level, that the incentive should not just be restricted to the solar PV panels, but it should be extended to battery and inverters. Because those are the two big capital components in relation to what people are rolling out. And then the second one, in relation to the incentive, is to ensure that we extend the period, not just a year, but 3 to 5 years, introduce certainty, and we'll see that there's going to be considerable uptake in the market. And then the second big one, so those two relates to the issues around incentive on the rollout of solar PV. The second big one is creating a financing facility that will make it available even for poor households to exercise and access opportunities related to the rollout of solar PV, batteries and inverters. And a lot of them are not sitting on unencumbered cash. They don't have the right risk profile to raise money with the commercial banks. And therefore it's important that we are able to introduce an instrument that will make it possible for them to be able to access that. I did say that we are talking to a number of the pension funds who are far advanced in that conversation. And I'm confident that we should be able to come out to say to the country, this is the instrument that we are introducing to ensure that there's parity, there's equity in how people are able to access these opportunities going forward. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Minister, for the progress update. Just to indicate that the Minister is also joined by ESCOM's Group Head for Transmission, Mr. Sikhomoto Skibbles, as well as Mr. Silas Isimu, the Special Advisor in the Ministry. I would now like to open the floor for questions from members of the media. We'll start with colleagues who have joined us here today. Yes, comment?
Promise Mukherjee from Reuters.
Good morning, everybody. This is Promise Mukherjee from Reuters. I have just 3 questions. So, Minister, since you said that by Wednesday or Thursday, the remaining 6 units where we have seen boiler leak will actually come online, does it mean that we'll again go back to that 14,000 range of megawatts of unplanned losses? That is first. Secondly, I had a question on transmission sector funding and you gave us some update. But I wanted to ask you, realistically, is it possible to tell us by when the money will start flowing into the transmission sector? And thirdly, the IRP 2023, since you said it's almost finalized, I wanted to understand, is there a coal component also in it? That is all. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Comments? Katana?
Yeah, my name is Katara Walabodi from the SABC. Mine just he touched on the IRP, so I won't go at length into that, but just to check what have been the stumbling blocks or the delays in releasing these plans, so the minister can give us the challenges that he's experienced in the lead up to the release of these documents, since he has experienced delays. And also just, I see that we've lost 17,000 at least of megawatts, and most of the people saying that, isn't there a way that we can see maybe the electricity ministry working with ESCOM exempting some schools that are writing their exams as we speak right now? Most people saying that, this is what we saw during the Rugby World Cup, even saying that there were exemptions then of some sort. Why aren't we seeing the same happen now to take the young ones into consideration where that is concerned? I'll leave it here.
Thank you very much, Katlaho. Do we have any more questions in the room?
So, from ENCA, just to continue on Katlaho's question about the matriculants. So, for the province, the NEC has said, the Education NEC that is, has mentioned that for schools that require electricity when they're writing the matric subjects, or those subjects that require electricity, there'll be backup generators, and so they'll make sure that everything functions as per normal. But again, is there no way to ensure this? But also, is this something that's being addressed at national level as opposed to just provincial level.
Thank you very much, Shoni. I think we'll take a few questions from Tagalani, from media that has sent questions online.
Thank you, Tagan. The questions that are coming from online, the first two questions are coming from Elmo, who is representing independent media. The first question is, why did imports drop to 808 gigawatts hour in September from 954 gigawatts hour in August? And also a feedback on the interest of neighboring energy producers to supply South Africa with power. We have Chris Elland from EE Business Intelligence. Please, Minister, can you provide updates on synchronization of Quebec Unit 1, full power of Unit 1 and switch off of Unit 2? And we have Helmo again from Independent Media. The question is, why did the unplanned outage factor jump to 31.83% in week 43 from 27.55% in week 42? And Chris Yelland from EE Business Intelligence, please advise of any additional new power that has come on stream from Mozambique since the minister advised that this was imminent some months ago. And we have two questions from Terence Kramer, who is representing Engineering News. One, please could the minister repeat his statements on the IRP update as well as the renewables and gas to power procurement programs? And the second question, will transmission funding fall under the infrastructure funding instrument outlined in the medium-term budget policy statement, or will it be a separate mechanism entirely? And the last question for now from Linda, who is representing Business Day. The minister mentioned the extension of the solar incentive to include batteries and inverters and to extend it for 3 to 5 years. And Treasury has rejected these proposals. So where are the minister's suggestions being discussed? That's it for now, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Takalani. We'll start with the supplemental statements on the transmission question.
Good morning. Thank you very much for the presentation of the status and the head of transmission division. I'll cover a few of the questions that relate to transmission, and some are related to the minister. Firstly, with regard to funding for transmission, the current mechanism for funding is based on corporate finance, where we take some debt directly to fund specific projects. And obviously those are supported by the relevant revenue that ESCOM gets for the services that it provides. The minister has made reference to some of the work that the ministry is doing, and I'm sure he will be able to give you a full update. In terms of the requirements as we speak, according to the plans that are on the table, we have adequate funding for the next 3 years linked to our corporate plan, but clearly we need more than that. Hence the efforts to get alternatives to secure more funding to invest in the network. This was a question, Minister, regarding the imports from the neighboring countries. There are two factors. The main one that has impacted the reduction is essentially around the maintenance work that was being done at Kawabasa, which is in Mozambique, to which we import just around 1,200 megawatts. So they had maintenance work that they had to do, and hence the imports had to reduce proportionately. And as soon as they are done, we expect to see an uptick in those imports. another question about new additional power from the grid from the neighboring countries. As the minister had, as the question raised, there have been discussions previously, specifically in Mozambique, but there are other countries that have indicated an interest to support us. We have launched what we call the standard offer, because we have to design a transparent procurement process in order to be able to solicit potential imports from additional imports from the region. So that is in the market now, and I do not have the precise timeline for when the bids are expected to close, but we will provide further input as we go through the progress. Thank you, Mr. I think that Thank you very much, Mr. Skiepos. Just to underscore the point that is being made. So, Mr. Skiepos is the head of generation already has got the CSM figure about 23 billion over the next 2 years. So it's not like transmission infrastructure or a store. But the point we're making is that we need to upgrade. So by their own account, when they've done the computation, you will need upwards of 210 billion. If you read other people's accounts, you will need up to about 500 billion. And as we know that that's corporate finance, you need other instruments to buttress that because I think we need to up the pace at which we are rolling out, in addition to what Mr. Skiepos is doing and the team. And that's when we come with this instrument. So this instrument must not be seen outside what they are doing. It's in addition to what they are doing, so that we are able to get the liquidity that is available in the private sector to ensure that the 210 billion number, 500 billion number, in fact, we are able to raise that kind of money. And to Promet's question, when are you going to start seeing those flows of money is when we have concluded that dispensation. First is the instrument, is the governance issues, and I'm sure that once there's assurance on the market on the direction that we are taking, we'll be able to see that coming through. I want to make the point that at the NICOM plenary, the one I referred to earlier on, and the President expressed some degree of impatience. And the point was that we need to ensure that we make available those instruments. Of course, they'll go through the structures, like I said, we are at the late stages of that. I'm confident that we should be able to, by the end of this month, December, be able to say this is what the options are. And then on what will happen with regards to the boiler tube bids, once those units come back, yes, I think we are going to go to those levels of 13,000 megawatts and 10 capacity as well. Essentially going back to that scenario that the experience that we had the first 3 weeks of October, we'll go back to those numbers. We'll be very confident of going there. But the issue is maintaining those that level. Of course, when unit 2 comes, it brings it down further by potentially 800 megawatts. So I think that we'll continue to see that improvement. But that will be undermined by our inability rather to address the issues such as boiler tube bids. And then you are likely going to see these oscillations as we move from one extreme to the other. And then, yes, from the IRP, of course, I mean, this is not a secret. It's going to come out. Even when it comes out, we did make the point that coal still remains an important feature of the energy mix in the country. So base load is important to support the renewables, the price of the redundancy of base load, coal, gas, nuclear, a big part of that. And of course, what they are sharing is the IRP will articulate what that is. But yes, the answer is an emphatic yes. And then on the delay, I mean, it's a function of extensive consultation, even internally. Remember, I did indicate that there were 2 steps. The first was the modeling. Modeling was shared with us, and then we get to the results on what is the configuration of the IRP. And we thought that it's important that is that extensive consultation that needs to happen. And then just to maybe just to make the point that at the principal level, it's very difficult to exempt all schools. Because if you come to think of it, if you are to map the density of the geographic locations of these schools, you'll find that the highest densities of these schools are located in areas of a significant amount of load. That is where there's major industry and the like. They share some of the distribution infrastructure with some of these major energy intensive users. So if you are to exempt them, if you don't have a direct line that goes to school A, school Y, so you are going to address implement load shedding at the level of that distribution infrastructure. Unfortunately, it's not possible. So I really don't want to stand here and create an impression that it's going to be possible. And that's why even with the hospitals, the requests that come through are not able to exempt all hospitals. There's a significant proportion of them that have not been exempt. Clinics, the like, and that's why they are on a need reference to that alternative emergency power solution, so that there's uninterrupted power in instances of load shedding. And like I said, we will prioritize the clinics in that region. And I also want to state that it's just a mere coincidence, and I kept on emphasizing this. I did fill the number of questions that we didn't have load shedding during the Rugby World Cup. There's no load shedding. That I said, you are managing the grid. Otherwise, we could be extending it, like I said. First, if that was the case, we would do it to the matriculants. So I think it's important that I state that there is no relationship, sheer coincidence, and that it happened that way. But we want to get to a stage where we don't have conversations about the possibility of exemptions, but just an appreciation that we have resolved load shedding in the long term. Like I said, when I answered Promi's question, we want to return those units as quickly as possible to ensure that we are able to minimize the intensity of load shedding. Because for me, it's not only during the period at which they are writing, but significantly at night when they want to start. And you can imagine, you are in your element, you are studying, and then suddenly there's load shedding. There's an interruption of 2 hours, and then you must come back and study. I think that it undermines the ability of these matriculants to perform at their best. And we really have been a detrimental factor to their ability to be able to apply themselves. Unfortunately, that's where we are. We want to do everything possible to ensure that we are able to address the situation going into the future. And then to Chris's question, I did indicate that we'll give you those more extensive updates on to see. We'll wait for the regulator to give this feedback, and then we should be able to come back and share with you significantly what is the work that has been done and to see what the projections are. I did make the point that the initial timeline is still okay for us to take out units 2 by the benefit of November. And then on the issues of I think that's all of it. I was asked to repeat the statement. Whatever I said earlier on, please. I don't say anything by mistake. I forgot what they wanted me to repeat. I think it was around the higher P, confident about it coming out. Like I said, it was a significant amount of consultation, and again the issues of 3,000 megawatts of gas to power. That's what we are still aiming for, ensuring that there's a significant alignment inside government. Like I said, the new plan, the president did express that, and we are working on that. We're leading that effort, and I'm confident that we should be able to come back with a positive feedback.
Thank you very much, Minister and Mr. Stewart. Dr. Nami, do we have any more questions?
Thank you, Tsakani. Yes, we do. We have Linda again from Business Day. So the minister mentioned the extension of this question. She just posted it again, but it was already, it's a question that is already answered. And then there's Chris Yeland from Business Intelligence, who said, please advise any progress on the opening of BD Window 7 for BD. So those should be that should be the last question. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We're taking the last questions. Yes, Tony?
Thanks. Maybe just to mention that the people online can't actually hear this press briefing. That's why they keep asking for questions to be repeated. My actual questions are, the Minister mentioned and gave a very technical answer to why there are huge swings in the available capacity and how it's important to try and make sure that that doesn't happen because it obviously undermines the work that you're doing. Just in very simple English maybe, for just the ordinary South African, can you just explain why? And I think it goes back to the question of why there was no load shedding building up to the Rugby World Cup final, and then the week after, Sunday after, suddenly back in load shedding. So just in simple English, please just explain how that happened. Why we're not at a place where we can maintain the available capacity as what it is. And then my second question is on the IRP delays. I mean, it's been a process that's been going on for the whole year. The Minister started his briefing saying November, and now it's end of November, December. Given that there have been so many delays, is there no way of, and I understand it's a consultative process, but given the importance and where we are, is there no way to say at this point this is it and no further, and this is what we want to achieve by the state? Then my final question is maybe to Mr. Skeppers from ESCOM. I'm not sure if you can answer this. We've had a situation where in townships, a lot of people are being disconnected, or there's a transformer that blows up, and then they need to pay the reconnection fee or the 6,000 rand to the penalty. And then it's taking a long time for those people who are willing to pay the 500 rand plus 6,000 to be reconnected. And it's causing a lot of discontent that even though we understand that we're in townships, historically we haven't paid. Now we are paying and prepared to pay, but we're still having to go for months. Even there's people who haven't had electricity since June, July. And some of them think that they're being scammed by this money that they must pay. So can someone please explain what is going on here? Because we've had a lot of questions about what exactly is happening in especially townships with that.
Thank you very much, Tony.
Okay. So in fact, Linda, the reason why she posted the question, she was saying the question was not answered. Is the question when she asked the minister, or she said the minister has mentioned the extension of the solar incentive to include batteries and inverters, and to extend it for 3 to 5 years, and the Treasury has rejected the proposal. So where are the ministers suggesting being discussed? And there's another question that just chipped in from Retumate from the Citizen News. And the question is, ESCOM lost billions in its latest results. How long can it afford to do so, especially with wind and solar being picked up by businesses and all? Thank you very much. I want to believe these were the last questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Caroline.
Oh yes, maybe just to say the following, that I think as a lead ministry in relation to resolving the issue, we are the ones who articulate the most comprehensive question. What some of these solutions will lead to the resolution of the energy crisis in the country. So yes, I mean, I'm not sure who had rejected this proposal. There was this proposal where only started engaging with the Minister of Finance about a month ago in relation to what are the prospects of, or rather, what are the benefits of increasing or extending this, the scope of the incentive. And we are able to illustrate what the impact it will have rather in relation to the uptake of this alternative energy solution, PV, solar, and also the issues of battery and inverters. So those conversations are happening with the Minister of Finance. And the last discussion that we had was on Thursday, so I don't know where she rejected this. And then the other issue with regards to big window, number 7, the intention now is that the cruise can be released by December of 2023. And of course, I mean, it goes to the point that Tony raised earlier on with regards to the IRP. Our timelines were a bit aggressive because we had an appreciation of the degree of the crisis that is confronting us. The need for us for the IRP to go out much earlier. And the initial timelines was about August, it was September. So you can see we're way outside September on the IRP. We are way outside the July timeline so I think it's important we continue to impress inside the government that there's a need for us to be a bit more aggressive. And I'm happy to say that we are aligned now with the Yamada Minister Mantasha. There's that appreciation. And of course, when the RFP, I think the point was raised that they have to do external consultations inside government so that when we come out with a document, it's one that is sufficiently socialized, essentially inside government to give us an opportunity to address this question. And then on the issues of the distribution infrastructure, so probably there are a number of issues there. So in fact, for the record, I mean, I was in the Orange Farm about a month or so ago. They've indicated to me its community, some of them have not had electricity for the past 6 years. So it's not just 3 months, 5 months, a year or two. It extends up to about 6 years. So the major cause of that is as a result of the legal conditions. And if you look at the capacity of the transformer, was meant to say is this size of demand. And because people are regularly drawing from that transformer, then the transformer test. And as a result of that, there has to be, if you like, replacement of these transformers. Now remember that on the distribution side, there are two major players, ESCOM and the municipalities. To the extent that these municipalities, you find municipalities like Utawaka, when I went through that thing there, they had not had that electricity, I think, at the time I went there for about 3 weeks, as a result of transformer that had failed and businesses were looking to the municipality. So what we have agreed there, Utawaka really doesn't have the kind of money that is required for them to replace that transformer. So ESCOM is chipping, and part of the requirement here is there has to be restoration of the prepaid meters. We need to remove the legal connection. And also it's a community way that they express an intention that or a desire that ESCOM should be the one that is leading them. And that conversation that is happening now between Utawaka and ESCOM to see to it that ESCOM takes over, if you like, those customers, and it's the one that is responsible for billing, collecting, and therefore by definition the replenishment of the distribution infrastructure. And then in these communities again, what ESCOM says is that there has to be a penalty associated with the failure of this transformer. So they say that the communities must make a payment for each household or customer of 6,000 rands. And then 6,000 rands or 500 rands over a period of 12 months. It comes to that 6,000 rands. So that of course, there's a cost. ESCOM spends tens of millions of rands in the replacement of these transformers. In many of these communities, when at least, or let me say, when I was at Orange Farm, they had already made that requirement, and yet the transformers were not installed. And they were happy with some of the communities. And that's why you are seeing now in Gauteng, having had discussions with the provincial government. The Gauteng provincial government is working together with ESCOM ourselves to ensure that we procure the transformers and then we get to install them. And it's a program that we intend to roll out throughout the county. It's working here in Gauteng. There's no reason that it shouldn't work in other parts of the county. Of course, Gauteng, on their part, must say it's an accounting issue because that's not sitting on their asset register, it's not sitting on their balance sheet. They must explain what that is. Essentially, is a donation. So what the accounting clever people in that space will help us, so that we don't run into a situation where a good deed translates into something that gives them adverse audit outcome. We are trying to make an intervention, and that intervention is viewed unfavorably by the AG because we have not met, if you like, the requirement in relation to how you dispense that. And then on the issues around the simple language, I always this is the simplest I can get. I also try to explain using the metaphor of the cars, in many of the briefings that I was giving. So it's essentially the following: is that we've got this capacity, installed capacity of the grid, and then that is made up of a number of units. So if you go to power station X, or you can go to Mark, or you can go to grid, you find that there's about 5 generating units at this station, 6 at the other station, and then they give you so many megawatts. When you pull them all together, they give you what is available on the grid. Now, when we went through that, if you like, sunshine period where we didn't have the electricity because of these units were not failing, they remained on load because of the work that the team has been doing over a period of time of planned maintenance. I did explain that before. So once we have that, it means that the capacity available on the grid is significantly higher because the performance is better. Even after you have taken out the units for planned maintenance, you can still meet the demand. So the demand, if you look at the picture I shared with you, was hovering at about 27,000 to 28,000 megawatts, and then we're generating about 30,000 megawatts. So we can meet what the demand was. And then suddenly you had a situation where 11 units across a number of power stations, I mentioned them, Camden, Kusile, Maka, Krill, Majuba, and all of that, they went down. So what that means when these generating units are down, it means that your generating capacity now comes down. Although your demand still is around 27,000 to 28,000 megawatts, suddenly you are below that demand. From a generation point of view, you are sitting at 27,000 to 26,000 megawatts. And that's why you get to put in place a load shedding so that you balance the grid. You deny people their right to have access to electricity on the demand side so that you balance that with generation, so that you avoid the situation of grid failure. And I'm saying that simply happened as a matter of coincidence when post the World Cup. So it's not by design. I'm sure that the situation where you want to have is for us to have no load shedding 24 hours, 365 days a year, and that's the end result we are working toward. That's the end game. What the end game is energy security. But the most immediate one is to ensure that we don't have load shedding, so that we eliminate any theories around whether there was no load shedding as a result of a major sporting event, and therefore the state does not show the same amount of desire to support the matriculants that are writing the exams. Nothing could be further from the truth. We are doing everything possible to ensure that we address this situation. I made the point during the BRICS summit that load shedding suddenly won't be suspended because there's BRICS. So if there's a facility, a venue that the BRICS is going to use, and we see that there's a national key point, there's an administrative process that must be followed within ESCOM for that to be exempt, and for that period it has to be exempt if it's been approved and there's a strong case, and if, of course, it can be supported by whatever generation is available. We go that way. The only reason that it can't be done for the schools is that there's tens of thousands of schools across the country. So what that means is that if you exempt them, it means that even in instances where demand far exceeds generation, the instrument of load shedding will not be available, and then the result will be catastrophic. Is a grid that is going to fail. So we do everything possible. I want to assure the country, particularly the matriculants, to make sure that we don't become a factor in them, whether succeeding or not doing their best as a result of load shedding. We want to eliminate that, not during the period at which they are writing, but also when they are studying. We're doing our best, and I'm confident that our best will show results, like I said. As I mentioned, some of these units are retaining. But let me take the opportunity to thank everyone who has made time to join us this morning. Thank you very much. Wish you a pleasant Sunday. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister. We've come to the end